Harihi Om. Sai Ram. Vanakkam, Namaskar, Vandanam, Assalamu Alaikum, and Sat Sri Akal. Lovely to see all of you again. Last week we looked at ego, so we move on to another topic which is slightly a kindred to what we looked at last week, right? It's called pride. So what's the dictionary meaning of pride? Pride, the quality or the state of being proud. So the word pride comes from the word proud. So it's a sense of imbalance. What some psychologists refer to as inordinate self-esteem. Inordinate self-esteem. If you look at literature books, you see a characteristic called conceited. Conceitedness. So conceit has got a direct relationship with pride. A reasonable or justifiable feeling of self-respect, but overly, delight or elation arising from some act, some possession, some relationship, my children are doing ever so well, but unfortunately yours are not, so those kind of examples, disdainful behavior, if you like. I like Shakespeare. He uses the word disdain in many of his works. Disdainful behavior or disdainful treatment, right? And this, being pride or being proud, is against the spiritual expectations of any spiritual aspirant. Because Swami says, most gurus will say, help ever, hurt never, and treat everyone alike. Love unconditionally. So when you have pride, or when you are full of, feeling of proudness, it's going to get in the way of your spiritual progress. Remember, people are all different, but the Atma is one. Regardless of where you come from, regardless of what your height is, what your weight is, what your color is, what your nationality is, what your ethnicity is, remember, everybody believes in the concept of the soul. Body dies, the soul lives on, right? Most religions have this belief. So if you are actually a spiritual aspirant, you should be thinking people may be different, but the Atma is one, the soul is one in everybody, right? So there was once this man who considered himself, very spiritual, and he led a very, very disciplined life, sticking to a pre-arranged timetable. He gets up very early in the morning, early morning of the hours. He bathes in the river in cold water. He recites the mantras. He prays. He meditates. And then, of course, after all the, prayers and everything, he drinks a cup of milk every day at 7 a.m. exactly, right? So this has been happening for many years. And after some time, obviously, if you don't have the control, what will happen is pride will overtake you gradually, slowly, but gradually. It's that, just always looking for little opportunities. The moment you are slightly relaxed, boom, it enters. Once it enters, it just takes over. It expands it expands at the expense of all other qualities. Now, sometimes the milkmaid arrived early. Sometimes she arrives late. She lived on the other side, and there was a river between where she lived. From her village, she had to bring the milk across the river to where this man was staying, in an ashram. So sometimes the ferry boat is clear, so it comes across easily. Sometimes it is not there, or if the sea is a bit rough, those kind of problems the milk lady used to have. Now, so a couple of times she came late, and the man, started to insult her and say, what's wrong with you? Every day I take my milk at 7 p.m. or 7 a.m. Why is it that you come late? And then she says, oh, master, sometimes there's a problem with the boatman, the ferryman isn't there. Sometimes the sea is a bit rough. So all these problems. He said, what? Look, I know you pray to Rama. Just say Rama's name, you should be okay. He said that with, an air of arrogance and pride, because he's such a spiritual man. So he's saying, just say the word, just say Rama's name. Rama Nama Taraka Mantraha. Say it and you'll be fine. So the maid was a very simple, unsophisticated woman, right? But she had faith in the words of what that man was saying. So the next day, she was there about 10 minutes before he was due to have his milk drink. And then every day she used to come early. So one day he stopped her and he said, "Listen, nowadays you're well in time. You're always early. How come? You got your own boat? You got your own ferryman? Why? What is happening?" And the lady said, "No, sir. I followed what you said. I said, Ram, and everything is fine. I can just cross over. The water subsides and I just cross over. It is, below my waist, so I can just cross over." I said, "No, surely not. Come, let's go to the river. I want to see you do this. If you are lying, I'm going to stop your service anymore." So they went to the river and the lady just prayed and said, "Sri Rama, Sri Rama, Sri Rama." And automatically the water subsided and she walked across. The moment this guy wanted to walk across, the water rose and became rough. So he couldn't, right? But still, you see, because of his pride, his spiritual wisdom is shut. So he says, "Okay, that may have been some magic that you had with you. Now walk back." Again, she did that. Om Shri Rama, Shri Rama, Shri Rama. This is what they mean by when they say pride goes before a fall. You see, this guy was so full of pride that all his effort in all his prayers was just mechanical. And he never had firm faith or firm belief in his own actions, but he was telling other people to do. And because they had firm faith, they could do it. You remember the story of Adi Shankara's Sananda, he called. The guy just ran across because he only heard his master's voice. And he said, "Whatever stands in my way, I don't care. I'm just going to him." And every step that he tried to put on the river, a lotus bloomed and held him. So from that day, he became known as Padmapada. Most of you would remember this during my Bhajagovindam sessions. I spoke about this story. You see, pride is the trap of something called ego pleasure. With pride, there are many curses, but with humility, there are many blessings. You know why? Because pride is concerned with who is right. Humility is concerned with what is right. Until I see you next Thursday, stay blessed.